so excited. I actually have learnt to love to do this. Oh my gosh, who knew I would have ever thought that I would love this? I have a message in my heart that God has put in my heart that I just know that as Kerr said, if you are willing, it is going to absolutely, from this day on, it's a from this day on. Kirst, you set the table beautifully for us this morning. You set the table. You set the table of thanksgiving. You set the table of celebration. You set the table of praise, and it is right to praise and come with a thank offering every Sunday. Not with but with a thank offering that, yes, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. Can I just talk about the elephant in the room? She's a bit fancy for a Sunday. There is a reason why I'm wearing my fancy dress, and for me it's probably a top because it's a little short for a dress for me. But this dress, I know, isn't it beautiful? It's stunning up close as well. I was gifted this dress by a designer in Melbourne. Her name is Trish, something to do with J, but her Trish G Store. Some might know her. She's a stylist down in Melbourne. And I did a funny thing. It was only a few weeks after I lost my mother, and I tagged. She has an Instagram, and I tagged because she was giving this dress away. And I tagged, and I did it wrong, and I've never entered a competition on Instagram before. And I just went, that might be nice, tagged, did it wrong. The next day, she reached out, and look what she wrote. I don't know you personally, but I love you and think you truly are a beautiful woman. God sees you. You are a blessing to many. Inbox me your postal address, and so I did. The dress took a couple of weeks to arrive, and when I unpacked it, straight away I knew, oh my gosh, this is the dress. This is the dress. This symbolises promise being awakened into my soul this morning, and that is the heart of my message this morning. I want to share with you something that Vicky Simpson is a well-known preacher woman out of the C3 movement, I think. Yes, she's a prophet. She's been up to SWB before. She's so on point. Sheree and I found this. She released this in early December. We tagged each other, we sent it to each other, and then Sheree went on and said, and tagged every woman that she knew on Instagram. It is such a powerful thing. Guys, just bear with me. I'm going to read this out. It is for women, but it is the message this morning is not for women. But just bear with me as I read this out. This is what Vicky Simpson wrote early December. This is her words, praying, referring 2019. And I felt the Lord say that it's time to pick out your party dress. Just like you would for a New Year's Eve party, choose it now, make it colourful, make it sparkly, and while you're at it, make it the garment of praise. Isaiah 61:3. I see praise as a prophetic weapon of choice during 2019. Praise, thanksgiving, song, and celebration. Kirsty did not know I was reading this out. For many women, 2018 has been a very tough year. Unprecedented challenges of the heart and unforeseen tests of faith. But as you celebrate and praise going into 2019, I see supernatural joy being activated, sustaining you and lifting you up and over any circumstance. Don't wait to see what the year brings before you celebrate. Start now and do not stop. And when the world and its many voices start speaking doom and gloom in 2019, do not listen, but rather turn the volume of your praise and rejoicing up. So pick out your party dress. Don't leave it in the rack or in your wardrobe, hidden and unseen. And I pray courage for you who are battle weary to put your dress on now. Even if it seems a little premature to start the celebration, start now. And as you do, your healing of heart will flow and you will be positioning yourself for 2019. Can I get an amen? Pick your dress out, ladies. Men, get yourself some fancy shoes. I really actually felt that I thought, oh, this is a bit girly. But men, we are stepping out. You need some new shoes. Go and get yourself some new shoes. We are stepping out. We are stepping out in our party dresses. We are stepping out in our new shoes. And we are not going to put our eyes on our problems and our situations because we know that that does not work. Praise, celebration, thanksgiving is the way forward. I want to take us this morning to Matthew 16:15. The title of my message this morning is Awaken the Promise. And I want to unpack Peter, the disciple, one of the first to be called. I'm going to be reading it out of the Passion Translation. This will be the NIV behind me. So Matthew 16, verse 15. But you, who do you say that I am? Jesus asked. Simon Peter spoke up and said, you are the anointed one, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, you are favoured and privileged, Simon, son of Jonah. For you didn't discover this on your own, but my Father in heaven has supernaturally revealed it to you. I give you the name Peter, a stone, a rock on the screen behind me. And this truth of who I am will be the bedrock foundation on which I will build my church, my legislative assembly, and the power of death will not be able to overpower it. I will give you the keys of heaven's kingdom realm to forbid on earth that is which is forbidden in heaven, and to release on earth that which is released in heaven. Here is Peter. And then one day, just out of the blue, one day, he's already been called. One day, then Jesus says, Peter, Simon Peter, from now on, you are Peter. Rock, rock. Peter means rock. And upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. Woo! What a promise. What a promise. From this day, the promise was deposited into his spirit. From this day, Simon Peter was now Peter. Rock. Whoa, imagine that. And you're thinking of the rock. Rock. Whoa, imagine that. Whoa, what a promise. There's a shift. The promise has been spoken. But then, let's have a look at Luke 22:54. And again, I'm in the Passion Translation. This needs no explanation. The religious leaders seized Jesus and led him away, but Peter followed from a safe distance. They brought him to the home of the high priest, where people were already gathered out in the courtyard. Someone had built a fire, so Peter inched closer and sat down among them to stay warm. A girl noticed Peter sitting in the firelight, staring at him. She pointed him out and said, "This man is one of Jesus' disciples." Peter flatly denied it, saying, "What are you talking about, girl? I do not know him." A little while later, someone else spotted Peter and said, "I recognize you. You're one of his. I know it." Peter again said, "I am not one of his disciples." About an hour later, someone else identified Peter and insisted he was a disciple of Jesus, saying, "Look at him. He's from Galilee, just like Jesus. I know he's one of them." But Peter was adamant. "Listen, I do not know what you're talking about. Don't you understand it? I don't even know him." While the words were still in his mouth, the rooster crowed. And at that moment, the Lord, who was being led away through the courtyard by his captors, turned around and gazed at Peter. And all of a sudden, Peter remembered the words Jesus had prophesied over him, saying, "Before the rooster crows in the morning, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me." And Peter burst into tears, ran from the crowd, and wept bitterly. But he's Peter, the rock. Upon this church, upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. I'm Peter, the rock. I'm Peter, the rock. What's happened, Peter? What's happened to you, Peter, the rock? Where's the promise now? Peter, the rock, what's happened? He's just done the very thing that he boasted that he would never do. Jesus warned all of them that you are all going to fall away from me. But Peter's just like, oh, Jesus, hang on a minute. I am Peter, the rock. I will not do this. I mean, I can understand that they're all going to fall away, Jesus. You know, I can see that they're kind of like a little on the weak side. But remember, you said that I'm Peter, the rock. Me, Peter, the rock. They might fall away, not so much me. I am not going to fall away. Boastful. And look at what happened. From promise to falling away. Let's have a look at Peter. Let's unpack his life a little bit. Peter was a fisherman. He's actually a businessman. He was in partnership with others. And so Peter knew what hard work was like. Any business people in here, you know what hard work is like, because it starts and ends with you, and all the middle bits are you as well. So Peter knows what hard work is like. And then one day Jesus calls him, come follow me, Peter. And I'll make you fishers of men. Instead of being a fishers of fish, I'm going to make you a fishers of men. So Peter was called. And Peter was brave because he said yes, and he answered the call. He said yes. Peter was a married man. So imagine going home and say, well, honey, I'm hanging up my nets because I've been called by a bloke called Jesus, and I'm going out to fish for men instead of fish. And imagine his wife going, what? Who's Jesus? What happened to you today, Peter? What happened? So Peter was called, and Peter was brave, and I'm sure he was quite determined to say to his wife, honey, I'm off. Peter was privileged. He had the privilege of being with Jesus through every part of his ministry, and what he would have seen, the miraculous, the transformations, the things we can only get a little snippet into. I'm sure what Peter witnessed. He was so privileged to walk with Jesus and see people being healed, people raised from the dead, people's hearts being transformed. What a privilege. What a privilege that Peter witnessed and walked with Jesus. And Peter had faith. Peter got out of the boat, and that takes faith. Peter got out of the boat and walked on water. There's no platform underneath his feet. There's nothing. It's just water. It's sea. There's no water. There's no platform. And so Peter had faith and took a step and went, oh, I'm walking on water, baby. He walked on water. He walked on water. That takes faith. Peter was privileged and called and brave, and he had faith. And he had revelation. You truly are the Son of the living God, Jesus. And that was put into him by God himself. That he wasn't just Jesus, the son of Mary and Joseph. He wasn't just Jesus, the carpenter's son, but he had this revelation, a heart revelation of, oh my gosh, you are what is written. You are him. You are the Messiah. You are Jesus, the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. He had revelation, and only God could give him that heart revelation. Oh my goodness, Peter is us. Peter is us. Peter is you, and Peter is me. We are Peter. We are Peter. We are called. Jesus has called us. Jesus called out to us and said, Julie, come follow me. And I'm just like, oh, okay, it's just time. Jesus has called you. You are called as well. You are called. Jesus has called you. And you're brave. You said yes amongst what anyone else. You just went, yes, you are called and you are brave. And you are privileged. What an honor and a privilege Isn't it? What an honour and a privilege it is to be known as sons and daughters of the Most High God. What a privilege that we are seated at the right hand of the Father in Christ Jesus in this realm, but also in the one to come. We are so privileged, aren't we? Do we forget how privileged and our position? And we are so privileged that we are holy, royal priests. We are so privileged, like Peter. We are so privileged. And we have faith. We've had moments in our lives where we've got out of the boat and we just kept our eyes on Jesus and we just went, this doesn't make sense. This is really out of my comfort zone. It's out of my comfort zone to sell our family home. It's out of my comfort zone to sell my family home and to pull my kids, my 4 kids out of school and to move up so far away from where my family is, so far away from my parents, so far away that I felt like I could be in another country. That took faith. That took faith to just go, this makes no... We had nothing to come here for. We had no business lined up. We had no jobs lined up. We just went, we're stepping out. There's no platform underneath here. We just stepped out and went, come on, kids. Woo! Let's walk on water. You have faith. You've been out of your comfort zone before where you've just stepped out of the boat and onto the water, went, whoo! And we have revelation, just like Peter, that has been put into us by God himself. The revelation that he is who he says he is. That's just revelations. That's not religion. We know that that is not religion. That's just a heart revelation put into us by God himself, that Jesus is the way, the only way. And we know that we're going to follow Jesus. We know that it is the way. And it may get a little bit scary. And it sure will get a little bit bumpy. And it sure is unpredictable. But we just know out of revelation, not out of religious, out of revelation, that Jesus is the way and he is worth following no matter where he leads us to. We are Peter. We really are. We are Peter. But can I also say Peter sank? Peter sank. He got out, walked on the water like, oh, wow. I'm walking on water, and then the waves came and the season, the relentless season came, and he took his eyes off and on, and the waves and the relentlessness of the season, the hardness, and he's getting weary and he's tired and he sank. And don't we sink? We've all sank before. We've all got out of the boat, but we've all sank. We take our eyes off Jesus because the problems are just getting too huge. And there's too many of them. And it's just too relentless. And I'm getting too tired. And I'm getting too weary. And oh my goodness, we start to sink. And we are Peter. And can't we pull Jesus aside just as Peter did and said, Jesus, this whole thing about you dying, you're freaking everybody out. Like, you just got to stop it, Jesus, like really, And don't we politely pull Jesus aside and just go, Jesus, this whole path that you've got me on, I gave up everything to follow you, but I'm thinking that this isn't working out for me anymore. This path, this season is just too relentless, so here's a helpful point. Choose my way. This is my way. I can see that if we do A, B, and C, that is a lot comfortable more for me. I think everyone else will see that too. So don't we just politely pull Jesus aside and just give him a little polite word in the ear and just say, what about my way? And we are Peter. And we've all fallen asleep. Peter fell asleep when Jesus asked him to stay awake and pray, but Jesus took too long. He just took too long, and so Peter fell asleep. And we all fall asleep when Jesus takes too long to answer us, to deliver us, to heal us, and we fall asleep. Promise has just taken way too long. It must be lost. And so we fall asleep. And when we fall asleep, we pray less and less, and we praise him less and less, and just little bit by little bit we believe less and less, and we're all Peter, and we've all fallen asleep. And we are Peter, and Peter's been known to cut an ear off or two. And you may think, I've never cut an ear off, but watch the mama bear rise when you touch one of my own. I will kill you. Don't we? Don't we? When it comes to someone that we love, when we love, we will defend to the end. You think, no, you won't, but watch mama bear rise if I will want your blood. And you think that's so over the top, but don't you do it as well? We are known to cut an ear off or two because we are Peter. And you know, all these people in the Bible, they all represent us. We can find ourselves in every single person in the Bible. We really can. It's how we learn. We can find ourselves in these people. And you might think, and you know, they aren't in here for us to pull apart and to judge them. I would never deny Jesus, ever. Wouldn't be like Peter. I would never deny. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. So would I. Don't we deny Jesus when we lose a bit of hope? Don't we deny Jesus when we start criticizing other people, his people? Don't we deny Jesus when we forget how amazing he is and how miraculous he is and our position? Don't we deny his power and his authority, and we deny Jesus? We do. We deny Jesus when we scoff at the promise because we just think, whatever, I'm sick of it, sick of hearing it. We so deny Jesus. And then we fall. And it's here in this fallen state where I believe God sometimes takes us to, this fallen state, because it's here in this fallen state where God does his most miraculous work. The fall was Peter's turning point, and it may not seem like it at the time, but the fall humbled Peter. The fall softened Peter, and he realized here in the fall that he is actually human, and he was like the rest of them, and he did the very thing he said. He boasted that I will never do, but he did it. And so it was here in this fallen state where he realized, I'm just human as well. I am the same. And he realized that I just can't do this without you, Jesus. The fall also really shocked him. The fall devastated him. The fall really discouraged him. And he sure did lose the sight of his promise then. He really did. He just forgot about the promise. He was just too tired and weary and confused and gutted. The Bible tells us that he went back to fishing. Instead of fishing for men, he went back to fishing for fish. And when we fall, we lose sight of our promise as well. And it greatly discourages us. And we tend to go back to what we know, what we used to do. And sometimes those things are smelly, like smelly fish. We give up because it's just taken too long. You know, it's just taken too long, and it's just been too relentless, and it's just been too much, and we're tired, we're weary, and we're somewhat defeated. But good news. Good news is God's heart is to always lead us back to his. It's always to lead us back to his, and sometimes, as I said, he allows us to get to this place to really realize that I just need you, Jesus. I don't care about all this stuff. I just need you. Could we go to John 21? 1. We'll start at verse 1. Jesus had been captured at this stage. He had been crucified and he's now been raised from the dead. So the disciples are quite confused, and so was Peter, and Peter's still gutted. He's still gutted because he denied you. He'd fallen and he's gutted. And they were told, Peter was told, Jesus is going to the Sea of Galilee, so go and meet him there. And Peter was quite desperate now. He's just like, I need to speak to Jesus. I need to sort this out. So Peter took off. Others followed him. He took off. And he got to Galilee, and he was thinking that Jesus would be there, because he's got, like, when you've done the wrong thing, so you go over in your head of like, okay, I'll just say this, and you practice. So Peter's just on his way to Galilee, and he's over in his head going, I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, I'm just, so he's doing this, and he gets there, and Jesus is not there. So he plonks himself down, and other disciples are around him, and this is where we pick up the story. John 21. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee, and it happened this way. Simon Peter. Can we just notice that we've gone back? We've gone back to Simon Peter. Simon Peter. And a few of the other disciples, too many to count. Verse 3. Simon Peter says, well, I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them. And they said, well, we'll go with you. Simon Peter is now going back to what he knows. Smelly fish. But we'll go with you. Always find someone else that goes with you to partake of your smelly fish. So they went out, got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, how about you throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved, that's John, by the way, he calls himself, I am the disciple whom Jesus loved. The disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. It is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off. That's how vulnerable Peter was. He was so hurt, so broken, so vulnerable that he went back to his old ways and he's butt naked. Gone back to old ways, so vulnerable, so hurt, naked, fishing. And he jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, bring some fish. Bring some fish that you have caught. Bring your smelly fish. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many fish, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast with me. The band can come, but don't concentrate on the band. This message is to all of you who have lost heart. This message is all of you who you are so discouraged. You have lost your hope. You've lost your way. You've gone back to smelly stuff. You've fallen asleep. And you've very politely fallen away. I need you to hear the heart of God here this morning. The heart of God is to not look at you with condemnation. Jesus didn't look at Peter with condemnation. It was just with conviction. It is not condemnation. So hear the heart of God here this morning where he says, bring me your smelly fish. Bring me your smelly fish. Bring me your burdens. Bring me your disappointments. Bring me the lost hope. Bring me your brokenness. Bring me. Bring me all that you've got, that the horrible, smelly mess that you might find yourself in. Bring me your worst so I can then exchange it. I want to exchange it. I want to bring restoration here this morning. I want to bring healing here this morning. And I want to awaken the promise here this morning because it is not forgotten. He longs to heal you. It's the heart of God here this morning who longs to draw you out, to draw you closer, to exchange your brokenness and restore your heart and awaken the promise here this morning. Your failure for his promise. What a beautiful exchange. This message was birthed because of this, for me, for my failures and my disappointments and my brokenness, and he's exchanged it and awakened the promise again. And if he does it for me, he's sure gonna do it for you. If he's chosen me out of everyone to win a dress, he's gonna choose you to exchange your brokenness for healing. Abram was 99 years old. The promise had been in him for years and years and years, dormant, but the promise was in there. And then one day, just like today, God turns up, just like he is today, and said, Abram, from now on, you are Abraham. Sarai, from now on, you are Sarah. And I'm telling you, by this time next year, you will hold the promise in your hand. It is not lost, church, and it most assuredly is not forgotten. And I'm telling you, as God told Abram and Sarah, from this day on, daughters rise up and take the title of Sarah. Men rise up from Abram to Abraham, from Simon Peter to Peter, because Peter's story it went on, and Jesus reinstated Peter and said, Peter, again, Peter the rock. We are Peters. Jesus is the chief cornerstone, but we are the rock. And upon this church, upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. And you are each a rock. And upon these rocks together, we are going to build Coastside. We are building. Hear the heart of God. Hear the heart of God. To exchange your disappointments and your hurts and your brokenness. Bring them and come and dine with Jesus this morning and exchange it for Sarah. Awaken the promise. It is dormant within you. Awaken from Abram to Abraham, from Simon Peter to Peter, from Sarai to Sarah. And I'm declaring over everyone here this morning that if you are willing, I declare, just as the word of God says, that in 12 months' time, around this time next year, you will hold your promise. You will hold your promise. We are going to go into worship. Bring him your worst. He can handle it. We have communion down the back. And for me, I'm taking my backside off this stage. And I'm going down the back. And I'm grabbing hold of communion. because he matters too much for me to just stay here. I want everything that he has promised me. Everything. Everything. And I want to be Sarah here this morning, from Sarai to Sarah. And I'm going to, as an act of my worship, as an act of my surrender, as an act of me bringing myself back to Jesus, I'm grabbing hold of that communion. I'm bringing it back to my seat. And as they sing, I'm worshiping and I'm partaking of communion, just as the disciples did on the beach that day at Galilee. Will you join me? Will you join me? Will you join me? Will you just join me? Bring it back to Jesus this morning. Hear the heart. I can handle your smelly fish. I can handle it. Let me exchange it and let me awaken the promise. You are all born with greatness. You are all rocks. We are all Peters. And he has put promise in us, and now it is time that he breathes on it and awakens it this morning. You will remember this day if you are willing. You will remember this day, the day that promise was awakened.